In this video, we're going to look at how FontBook works on the Mac. It's a native file, a native app software that the Mac uses to control your fonts and to organize them. It's a really great tool. Down here, you're going to find it on your toolbar, or you can find it under Applications, and you can look for FontBook, which is right here, or if you can't find it there, go and Applications, and you should be able to find it there. And once again, FontBook. Now I already have it open here, so I'm just going to open it here. So once again, there are other ways to organize your fonts. There's other pieces of software, but I like obviously using the FontBook because I did use other different types of software like Suitcase, but I just find this one a little bit easier. It always works. It never crashes. It's not a third party, so it's just always updated through Mac, and it's only getting better. But it's a very simple, sleek look at how to organize your fonts on your computer. Now on a PC, obviously it's a little bit different. You have the fonts folder in your control panel or something like that. I'm not even too sure anymore. And you could load them up there. But the good thing about this is that you could activate and deactivate any font you want. So if it's overloaded, but realistically the Mac can handle a lot of fonts already to be accessed anytime. But if you wanted to, you can actually right click and disable or remove certain fonts, even though they're still on there, so they don't take up as much space. But because fonts are so small in size, you could have a lot available on your computer, thousands, and it won't bog down your computer. It shouldn't bog down your computer. So the good thing about FontBook is, once again, I have all my fonts here. I could make it relative to the computer, which fonts are on the computer, and obviously which fonts maybe per user. Now I'm the only user for this computer, so I have access to all the fonts. The other thing you could do is actually start organizing your fonts. As a good designer, you're going to start understanding the difference between the classifications of fonts, which we're going to get into a little bit later. So for me, what I like to do, I like to organize myself in terms of display fonts, ones that are kind of interesting and whatever, and then obviously my sans serifs, my scripts, my serifs, my traditionals, web fonts. Like some of them are already given to me through FontBook, but I could always make my own and kind of have a slab serif or transitional, kind of whatever I want. But these are enough for me for classification purposes. But I really do enjoy FontBook. It runs really quick, really fast. Like I said, I had some issues with other third-party software before. Here I could also type in a typeface, anything I wanted to use. Let's say I want to get to Archer, and obviously it's going to pull up Archer for me, and now I can go through Archer. And it gives you like a nice little look of what it looks like, so you could have a better time going through them and saying, do I want to use this one or not? And it's a really nice, simple, clean look. But how do we use FontBook? So what you have potentially are some fonts. I'm going to show you currently if I had fonts on here that weren't a part of my system yet, and then how to import them. So a really easy way to do it, I just have this zip file of a NutraText TF typeface that is a very popular typeface. It's a great typeface. I'm just going to open it. It's a zip file. And here's what I'm going to find. You're going to find a few different kinds of end extensions. So you're going to have an OTF, a TTF. There's going to be a few different ones, and some they're generally all good. They work well, but they do have to serve their purposes. But if you find an OTF, open typeface, or a TTF, true typefaces, those are the ones you want to use most commonly, or you're going to see most commonly, and you're going to use those ones. So right now I have these OTF, and what is going to happen, because my software recognizes these fonts, if I double click even just on one of them, it's going to automatically go to glyphs because I have glyphs open, but that's not what I want. So what I could even do is right click and go to my get info, and I could say don't open it with glyphs. And you can do this with actually any file and say, you know what, if I have a JPEG and it opens up in preview, say you could right click on it, go to get info and say, don't open it with glyphs, open it with FontBook, or open your JPEG with Photoshop so it doesn't open with preview, or vice versa, whatever you want to do. So I'm just going to say change all, and now it's going to change any OTF or TTF. More than likely, it's going to open up in FontBook automatically. So that's done. So now if I double click on this, it's going to open it up into right there. It says install the font. It shows me the font. That's the only one. I'll say install font, and there goes my font right there. It's installed. Now if I do it for all these, I could double click on them, or I can click and drag them, and I'm going to bring them into all fonts. You see I could hover over, and now if I drop them in, and now they're going to be installed. Then if I go to Nutra, all my Nutra are there. Now I have a bunch of doubles and things like that, but for the most part, all my Nutra typefaces are there, okay? So that is how we actually take a font that we have, and we bring it into Font Book. And now, with that font, I'm able to use it in Adobe Photoshop, Adobe InDesign, Adobe Illustrator, and other Adobe products that use type. And I'm able to use those typefaces now. They're available to me in my software. But now I know how to bring them in, but like, how do I look for fonts? How can I get new fonts? Because obviously with your Adobe, you get a certain font library already, or maybe some you've been collecting over the years, but there's a few different ways to get fonts, and I'm going to show you a few right now. The first one you can look at as actually Adobe Fonts. Adobe Fonts you get with Adobe CC, the software. If you purchased it, you have a subscription. You actually have access to all these fonts. When you stop accessing or don't have a subscription anymore, you don't have access to any of these fonts. But let's quickly look at the website. I just type in Adobe Fonts, and this is what comes up. This is the URL. And let's look what I have. I could browse the fonts. I could type in a certain font if I already knew what it was. I can actually go to my filters if I'm looking for a certain one. So obviously Adobe's already figured out people are looking for certain ones. That's fine. I can scroll down here and look for a certain classification I was mentioning before. You could look at sans serifs and serifs, slab serifs, scripts, black letter, mono, hand. There's a bunch of different ones you can look for. And if you're looking for certain properties, are you looking for different weights and widths, certain X heights, certain contrast? So there's a lot of different ways you can really pinpoint certain typefaces that you're looking for. However, if you're not, you just kind of go through starting from the most popular as a featured. But how do we look at this? So you could do the list view and just kind of go through it this way, which is a common way to do. You could do the grid view, and it gives you maybe just a different way to look at it. But quite frankly, they're very similar, whichever one you prefer. And you could change up the way the type is. Obviously, they have this initial sample text, a very popular text, but you could enter your own text, alphabet. You could do a full alphabet with all the different glyphs. You could use a few different ones that they have, okay? Or you could, like I said, just type in your own, the different text size if you're looking for, you're not too sure. And of course, you can sort from by the name, the newest, or featured. It doesn't matter if I go by name, it's going to start from alphabetical. Now, let's pretend I go down and there is a certain one I really like. So let's pretend, actually, I'll go here. I'm going to look for a slab serif. So it's going to change all automatically and show me a slab serif. So, whoa, this Abril titling I really like. Now I already have it, so actually let's not do that. Let's do another one. Let's just say Aglet slab. Cool. I'm going to view the family. And now what I do, I can actually grab the whole family. There's 14 fonts. So it's going to show me kind of a nice design feature of what it looks like in design. And then I could kind of, once again, learn about the font, learn about it, licensing details, and I could actually learn about the designer as well, who actually designed it and where they're from, which is really cool, which I love about Adobe Fonts. It tells me where. So if I really like this font, maybe I want to go learn more about Jesse and XYZ tag. So I could actually activate certain fonts, or I could activate the whole typeface if I want, okay? So just to go through it, these are all the different fonts. They look really cool, good stuff. And then down here, it explains a little bit about it, where you might want to use it, why it looks so good. It shows you the type designer, which is great. And it shows you the foundry as well, and licensing information, which is always important. And it just gives you a little bit more information about it, and which is really, really extensive information about this typeface, which Adobe does a really good job of it. So I'm going to activate all 14. So once again, remember, this is called Aglet Slab. So now that they're all activated, well, let's go into Illustrator and let's try to use them if I can. So I open up Illustrator, and it says right there in the Creative Cloud, pops up 14 fonts were activated. So now Creative Cloud knows. So now what should happen is I should be able to access all of the Aglet fonts in Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. So let's try it out. So I'm going to Command N and create a new project, 8.5 by 11. Doesn't matter. I'm just playing around. I'm going to click my type. I'm going to click and drag my type tool. And there's my lorem ipsum right away. By default, it shows up. Well, let's see if I can access Aglet. I'm going to go to my character panel. I can also go down here to character panel, but I'm already up here on the control panel. So I'm just going to go and look for Aglet. And let's see if it shows up. There it is, my 14 fonts. I could go down my arrow and take a look at all the different ones. I could say, okay, like Ultra, that's obviously not great for a body text, but let's look, that's where it's available. That's really great. So I have now this access to this, so once again, in Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign, and other type of other software that utilizes type. So once again, that's a little bit much, so maybe I'll just go light. Oh, I didn't select it all. I'll just change the font to light. There we go. Once again, just to show you that you could activate it there. Now, there's another way to do it too, not just online. If I wanted to, I could say, you know what, I'm going to duplicate this, and I want to select this, and I'm going to go to my character panel again. I'm going to go to my typeface, and I'm going to choose a different typeface, but this time, instead of going to the website and looking at Adobe Fonts, I could actually just go to Find More, which is a part of my Adobe CC subscription, and I can see all the different Adobe fonts available to me that were just exactly available to me online. Now, if you prefer to search through them here or go online to Adobe Fonts, it doesn't really matter, whichever you prefer. So once again, it's going to go through them. Now, all of these are available to me currently to preview, but I don't actually have them on my system, or sorry, not on my system, but I'm able to use them just yet. So what I have to do is say, you know what, I really like this script, Austin Pen. So what I can do, I can take a look, okay, there's 2 typefaces in there, that's fine. I'm just going to click on this little cloud over here, and it's going to activate both of them. If I just click on one, it's going to activate one. But if I click on the actual folder, more or less, that it's in, I'm going to click on that. Activating, I'm just going to wait. And what should happen is that little pop-up should show up again saying, yeah, there it is, 2 fonts were activated. Now let's go and let's take a look at something. So once again, it was called Austin Pen. Okay, and it shows it's active. So I'm going to go, actually, I could use it from here, Austin Pen, okay? But instead of activating it there or showing it there, I'm going to go back to my normal fonts, which is already there. And I'm just going to go and take a look at and see if I could find that typeface. I've kind of already forgotten the name of it, but that's quite all right. There it is, Austin Pen. It's actually in my normal fonts now, and I can use it. Okay, so there's 2 ways to activate Adobe Fonts, and with your subscription, you have access to, let's take a look, a lot of fonts. There are many, many fonts you have access to, more than you'll ever need, quite frankly, but it's nice to know that they're available there, and you have access to a lot of them, which is another huge reason that we use Adobe, which is great. So now another thing here you could look at too is if the font packs. These are kind of curated fonts, or typefaces, we should say, that are curated by Adobe professionals and different type designers and typographers that you might find useful, which is great. Another way you could use them is using this Typekit web fonts. You could use and actually get a code that Adobe gives you so you could utilize these fonts that are available through the web. So you could actually say, I want these typefaces to be available to me on the web. And the way you do that, actually there's a whole run through if you click on here and how to do it, so I'm not going to go through that. But if this is the icon you're looking for, so when you click on that, it gives you the run through on how to do it and how to install the code so you can utilize this, or quite frankly, any typeface on your website, which is really, really cool. So a great way to look for fonts, and to get access to a lot of them too. Now, another one that is available to us too is Google Fonts. So Google Fonts is good because you don't have to have a subscription to anything. You just have to type in Google Fonts and here's Google Fonts. That's great. So kind of the same idea in terms of its structure in the UI, but I feel that Adobe does it a little bit better because it's kind of more for designers who know what they're looking for and people who have a little bit of understanding of typography, where Google Fonts is more for the layman, which is totally great, but you have access to a ton of different fonts too, which is really, really great. So the same idea, I could search for a certain typeface, I could type something in or change it to custom, a sentence, the alphabet, let's go to alphabet, and it changes up to the alphabet, which is great. Different categories, so once again, a few less categories, but still really good to go through. Different languages, of course, we could look at as well if you're looking to design in a different language, and different font properties, number of styles, thickness, slant, width. So this is kind of pretty cool too, how we could play around with that. But once again, obviously variable fonts. This is a pretty cool thing too. I always talk about now these new variable fonts are available to InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator, that they actually change by using a slider as opposed to just choosing italic and bold and a medium or whatever it is, condensed or expanded. The variable actually gives you so many more finer points in between all those that they're very good to use. So you might actually just want to show variable fonts, but for the most part, you can see everything. But it'll still let you know if it's variable or not, like here. So once again, let's look at Roboto. Great typeface, and you can change up a few things. The grid view, the list view, trending, or what's new by name, just like Adobe does too. There's featured fonts and articles and about, but right now I'm just going to click on this one. And look what I have here. Selected styles. I could look at all the different glyphs that I'm going to get. I like that. I love the way that looks. I'm going to look about Roboto, the typeface, just like Adobe does. And it tells me about the designer and where they're from too, which is huge. I can learn more about them and contribute. I could look at the licensing agreement and different pairings. Look at that. It actually shows you best ways to use this typeface too, probably from the designer, which is great. So I have all these fonts. I could select this style or select this style or choose that, but instead what I'll do, I'll just download the family. And there it is, it's in my downloads. What I'll do, I'm going to open in the Finder, and I'm just going to click on that one. Where is it? Roboto. And good thing it's named properly too. It's named Roboto, the name of the typeface. Sometimes when you download things from certain sites, they don't name it properly. The file, you have to search for it. This is really well done, so I'm loving the way that works. And I have that file now too. So once again, just like we've done before with the Neutra typeface, which I'm going to delete now because now it's inside my font book. I don't need to carry another copy of it anywhere, unless I want to hold on to a copy of it. But because it's in the font book, I can leave it there and I'll always have access to it. It's not linking to anything, it's just in font book. So there I go. I'm going to double click and open Roboto. That's how we open zip files, so just double click. I'm going to open up the folder, and there are all my fonts, the TTS. Remember now, these are true typefaces. So the licensed text, I can read it, understand it, get a sense of it, and for the most part, what I'll do, I'll select all these and I'll double click. It's still opening up in glyphs because I only said OTF files. So let me close all these. Okay. I gotta do it for each one, not a problem. So let me right click, and actually let me just right click on one of them. Right click and go to Get Info. And once again, here we go. So I'm gonna say I wanna open it with Font Book and change all. So now not only will my OTFs change, my TTFs will also open up in Font Book. And there I go. Install the font, yes. And it installed all my fonts, and let's go to, usually it takes me right to Roboto, which it did. So let's open up Roboto, beautiful, they're all in there. And now that they're in my font book, look what I can do. I can go back here, I can pick another one, doesn't matter, just select it all, and I'll go to Roboto, and there's my Roboto. Okay, so I can click and choose whichever one I want, and I have now that accessible on Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, and other programs in Adobe that I'm able to use different type for. So there's access to that as well. So Adobe Fonts is fantastic. Google Fonts is a great way to get fonts. And there's one last one that I like to use only because I'm old school and I'm really a big fan of this website. It's taken me through a lot and it's given me lots of great stuff. So here you have DaFont.com. And you may be familiar with this or not, it doesn't matter. It's a little bit of a different user interface, which is totally fine. You have kind of these common terms that people might like to look at, and it's kind of interesting. Obviously, maybe I'll try handwritten, but obviously these ones are the most recently added fonts. So I'm just going to click on handwritten, and now what I do have a bit of a filter here, which is kind of cool. I could type in my own text, the different font size I want. I can actually look at the different sizes, sort by popularity, submit, if I wanted to actually change something here. But for the most part, I'm happy with this. It looks great, and I can just go through and be like, wow, okay, there's some really nice ones here. And now these ones are more not necessarily curated by, Google Fonts and Adobe. What DaFont is anyone can upload a typeface here, which I'm sure it's curated by DaFont, but they're a little less stringent on maybe certain styles, because you might download some of these and you only have uppercase, or you don't have any glyphs in terms of ampersands and punctuation. So you do have to be careful when you download these. So let's just take a quick look. I'm going to look at Mango Salsa, and I'm just going to download it, just like I would have done it through Roboto. Through Google Fonts. So I'm just going to click on my download, and I see it right there, Mango Salsa. I'm going to open it, and here I am. I have my Mango Salsa there, and I have my image. Okay, there's images on how to use it too, and what looks best. That's kind of cool. So there's my TTF. I'm just going to double click on it. There I go. Install the font, and it'll probably take me to where it was downloaded. There was Mango Salsa, and it says personal use. So there's different licensing agreements as well with DaFont and what they use. But once again, I'll go here and I'll click on that, and I'll turn it all to Mango Salsa. There it is, Mango Salsa. Now I could use it. Obviously a horrible way to use it for body text, but I have access to a lot of different fonts. So that's how we do it. We can download fonts from a lot of different places actually online, but these three are fantastic, especially if you have Adobe CC. You could use DaFont, you could use Google Fonts, and then what you do, you take it for DaFont and Google Fonts, you take that file, you double click that zip file, and you open it up in Font Book, and now you have access to all those fonts in your different software. With Adobe, you just have to do it either through the website, which gives you a beautiful UI to look at and go through, and obviously you can do it right in your applications as well, and click on your Find More and take a look at all the different fonts you have available to you there as well, activate them, and now you can use them in Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign as well. So a really great way to find fonts, and then obviously a great piece of software, font book, to utilize the fonts, add them to your OS, and now you can use them anywhere you want.